All right, thanks, guys. Happy Friday to you. We are currently 64% in our last 22 board member package plays on patreon.com/BrockPage. We're also hitting at 65% for the entire college football season on that website. The link for that site is in the description section below. That's patreon.com/BrockPage. The Nets take on the Hornets, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off in Charlotte. The Nets are -2.5, total 218 and a hook. We saw a 1-point fade of Brooklyn and movement upward on the total. The Nets open 3.5 down to -2.5. Total open 218 up to 218 and a hook. 73% of the consensus are leaning toward Brooklyn. 61% shaded toward the over. Right now, Charlotte's plus $1.20 on the money line. Now, Charlotte's lost 7 out of their last 10, really struggling as of late. They rank in the bottom 10 in scoring, bottom 10 in offensive rebounding. They also covered just 40% of their games in their last 10. A couple more things to add about Charlotte. They rank in the bottom 10 in offensive field goal percentage, bottom 3 in defensive field goal percentage as well. Meanwhile, Brooklyn on the other side, winners in 6 out of their last 8. They rank in the top 10 in offensive rebounding. They're also led by Spencer Dinwiddie, who's averaging 21 points a game, 3 rebounds, 6 assists. Joe Harris is scoring 15 points a game, 4 rebounds as well. The Nets rank in the top 10 in road scoring, top 10 in road offensive rebounding. Now, total-wise, Brooklyn's last 4 games all got over the number. Meanwhile, Charlotte, 5-3 to the over in their last 8. I'm going to purchase the half a point, slide it down, and take Brooklyn -2 and the over 218.5 in that game. Next matchup, it is going to be Magic taking on the Cavs, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off in Cleveland. The Magic are the 3.5-point favorite, total at 212 and a hook. Saw a half a point move toward Orlando and movement upward on the total. The Magic open as the 3-point favorite, up to -3.5. Total open 212, up to 212 and a hook. 75% are leaning Orlando, 67% shaded toward the over. Right now, Cleveland's plus $1.45 on the money line. Cleveland ranks in the top 10 in defensive rebounding, top 5 in defensive rebounding at home. Colin Sexton scoring 18 points a game, averaging 3 rebounds and 3 assists. Kevin Love, 17 points a game for him, 11 rebounds, 3 assists as well. Orlando on the other side, just 4-6 against the spread in their last 10. They've also covered just 8 out of 21 games overall for the entire year. They rank in the bottom 3 in scoring, bottom 5 in offensive field goal percentage. Amino and Vucevic are still out indefinitely. When it comes to the total, Orlando's 3-3 to the under in their last 6. 6 out of Charlotte's last 11 at home stayed under the number. Totally disregard what I said about Charlotte. But a lot of unders for Charlotte as well. So with all that said and done, I'm going to purchase the half a point, buy it up, and, well, what am I doing here? All right, guys. I'm leaning Cleveland +4 after buying the half a point and the under 212.5 in that game. It's very early. It's like 4:30 in the morning on the East Coast here. So anyway, next matchup, it is going to be Indiana taking on the Pistons, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off in Detroit. The Pacers are -3, totals 212.5. Jackson is still out for the Pistons. Kennard is listed as questionable as well. Detroit just 8-14 straight up on the year. They've also covered in just 8 out of those 22 games. They rank in the bottom 10 in offensive rebounding, bottom 10 in defensive field goal percentage at home. We're looking at an Indiana squad on the other side who's pretty hot right now, 7-1 straight up in their last 8. They also successfully covered the number in 6 out of those 8 games. They rank in the top 5 in offensive field goal percentage, top 10 in points allowed. Malcolm Brogdon's averaging 19 points a game, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. Domantas Sabonis, 18 points a game, 13 rebounds, and 4 assists for him. The Pacers have successfully covered the number in 6 out of their 10 games on the road this year. They rank in the top 10 in defensive field goal percentage, top 5 in defensive rebounding. Now, total-wise, Indiana's 5-2 to the over in their last 7. Meanwhile, Detroit 4-0 to the over in their last 4, 7-4 to the over at home. I'm going to lean toward Indiana -3 and the over 212.5 in that game. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take another quick timeout and welcome you to the show. Got some lines of personal leans out for Friday's NBA action. Happy Friday to you guys. The weekend is finally here. Now, before we go ahead and dive into some more free lines of personal leans right here on YouTube, I just want to quickly remind you to check me out on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage, where once again we are hitting at 64% in our last 22 board member package plays on that site. We're also hitting at 65% for the entire college football season on that site as well. We do daily premium selections on that site beginning at just $1.99 per month. We also have a bunch of different memberships, tiers, and packages that you can subscribe to. Link for that site is in the description section below. That's patreon.com/BrockPage. All right, let's go ahead and get into our next matchup. All starts Eastern Standard Time. And our next game is the Nuggets taking on the Celtics, 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off in Beantown. Boston's -3.5, total 203. So a half a point fade of Boston, movement downward on the total. The Celtics open as the 4-point favorite, down to -3.5. Total open 204, down to 203. 73% are leaning Boston, 88% shaded toward the over. Right now the Nuggets are plus $1.35 on the money line. Now, the Nuggets have dropped 2 out of their last 3. They also failed to cover in 2 out of those 3 games as well. They rank in the bottom 10 in scoring, bottom 10 in offensive field goal percentage. Now, the Celtics on the other side, winners in 4 out of their last 5. They've also successfully covered the number in 6 out of their last 8. The Celtics rank in the top 10 in offensive rebounding, top 5 in points allowed. Kemba Walker is averaging 22 points a game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Jason Tatum, 21 points a game, 7 rebounds, and 2 steals. Boston's still undefeated at the Garden this year, 8-0 straight up at home. They also successfully covered the number in 6 out of those 8 games. They rank in the top 10 in defensive field goal percentage, top 10 in home scoring. When it comes to the total, Boston's 70% to the under in their last 10. They're also 12-8 to the under for the season. Meanwhile, 5 out of Denver's last 7 stayed under the total as well. They're also 5-3 to the under when traveling. I'm going to purchase the half a point, slide it down, and take the Celtics -3 and the under 203 in that game. Next matchup, Wizards taking on the Heat, and that'll be an 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off in Miami. Miami's -10.5, total 234 and a hook. We saw a 3.5 point move upward on the total in this one. Once again, Miami's -10.5, total open 231 up to 234 and a hook. Goran Dragic is out for the Heat. Winslow is listed as questionable. Miami's failed to cover in 2 out of their last 3. They're also just 3-4 against the spread in their last 7. The Wizards on the other side, 7-4 against the spread on the road, 12-8 ATS overall for the year. Now, although Isaiah Thomas and Thomas Bryant are listed as questionable, they're still led by Bradley Beal, who's averaging 29 points a game, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. And then, of course, Davis Bertans, 14 points a game, 4 rebounds for him. Washington ranks in the top 3 in scoring, top 3 in offensive field goal percentage. No problem putting the ball in the basket for them. Now, total-wise, Washington 7-4 to the over when traveling, 60% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Miami 4-2 to the over in their last 6. They're also 5-3 to the over at home. I'm going to purchase the half a point, slide it up, and take Washington +11 and the over 234.5 in that game. Next matchup, it is going to be Timberwolves taking on the Thunder. And that'll be an 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off in OKC. Thunder's -2.5, total 221. So a half a point move toward OKC and movement downward on the total. Oklahoma City open as the 2-point favorite. They're up to -2.5. Total open 224 down to 221. 62% are leaning Minnesota. 61% shaded toward the over. Right now the T-Wolves are plus $1.15 on the money line. Wiggins and Towns are listed as questionable for tonight's action. Keep an eye on them. We may not see them in action. Layman is listed as out for Minnesota. The T-Wolves have failed to cover in 6 out of their last 9. They also rank in the bottom 10 in field goal percentage, bottom 10 in points allowed. OKC on the other side, winners in 3 out of their last 5. They're also 6-3 against the spread in their last 9, 7-4 against the spread at home this year. They rank in the top 5 in home offensive field goal percentage. Danilo Gallinari, 19 points a game, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 18 points a game, 5 rebounds, 3 assists for him. OKC's 12-8 against the spread overall for the year. Top 10 in defensive, top 10 in defending the three ball at home. Excuse me. Now, total-wise, 4 out of OKC's last 5 stayed under the number. Minnesota 6-2 to the under in their last 8 themselves. I'm going to purchase the half a point, buy it down, and take OKC -2 and the under 221 in that contest. Next matchup, it is going to be Warriors taking on the Bulls. 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off in the Windy City. Chicago's -5, totals 212.5. Saw a 1.5 point fade of Chicago and movement downward on the total. The Bulls open 6.5 down to -5. Total open 214.5 down to 212 and a hook. 65% are leaning Chicago, 63% shaded toward the over. Right now the Warriors are plus $1.80 on the money line. Golden State just 4-19 straight up on the year. They've also dropped 12 out of their 14 games on the road. They failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4 matchups. They rank in the bottom 5 in scoring, bottom 10 in offensive rebounding. Now Chicago on the other side, winners in their last 2 straight. They're also 3-0 against the spread in their last 3. Zach LaVine's averaging 23 points a game, 4 rebounds and 4 assists. Lauri Markkanen, 14 points a game, 7 rebounds for him. Total-wise, Chicago's 4-1 to the under in their last 5. Golden State's 5-1 to the under in their last 6. I'm going to lean Chicago -5 and the under 212.5 in that contest. Next matchup, it is going to be Clippers taking on the Bucks, and that'll be an 8:30 Eastern tip-off in Milwaukee. The Bucks are the 3.5 point favorite at home, total 232. Saw a 1.5 point fade of Milwaukee and movement downward on the total. The Bucks open 5 down to -3.5. Total open 232.5 down to 232 even. 56% are leaning Milwaukee, 55% shaded toward the over. Right now the Clippers are plus $1.45 on the money line. Magruder and Shamet are still out for the Clippers. JaMychal Green is listed as questionable as well. Los Angeles failed to cover in 5 out of their last 9. They're also just 2-6 against the spread away from home this year, good for just 25%. They rank in the bottom 10 in points allowed on the road, bottom 5 in defending the 3 ball on the road. Milwaukee on the other side, completely different story. They're first in scoring, first in offensive field goal percentage, first in offensive rebounding. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 31 points a game, 13 rebounds, 6 assists. Chris Middleton, 17 points a game, 6 rebounds, 3 assists for him. Milwaukee is right in the heart of a 13-game winning streak, hottest team in the association right now. They also rank in the top 3 in defensive field goal percentage, first in home scoring. Total-wise, Milwaukee 60% to the under in their last 5. Clippers 13-9 to the under overall for the season. I'm going to purchase the half a point, slide it down, and take Milwaukee -3 and the under 232 in that game. Next matchup, it is going to be Kings, Spurs, 8:30 San Antonio. The Spurs are the 4-point favorite, total 216. San Antonio's 3-7 straight up in their last 10. They've also dropped 9 out of their last 12 at home. They rank in the bottom 10 in points allowed, bottom 10 in defensive field goal percentage. LaMarcus Aldridge is listed as questionable for tonight's action. Now, out of San Antonio's 22 games on the year, they've successfully covered the number in just 6 of them. They rank in the bottom 10 in points allowed at home. Now, the Kings on the other side, 7-3 against the spread in their last 10. They also rank in the top 5 in offensive rebounding. Now, Joseph and Bogdanovich are listed as questionable for tonight's action. That said, Buddy Hield's averaging 21 points a game, 5 rebounds, and Harrison Barnes is averaging 16 points a game and 5 rebounds himself. The Sacramento squad is 7-4 against the spread when traveling this year. They also rank in the top 10 in offensive three-point percentage on the road, and they rank in the top 3 in defensive rebounding on the road as well. Now, total-wise, the Kings are 70% to the under in their last 10. They're also 8-3 to the under away from home. 5 out of the Spurs' last 7 stayed under the number as well. I'm going to lean Sacramento +4 and the under 216 in that contest. And of course, I'm going to slide in my next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Lakers, Blazers, 10:30 Portland. The Lakers are the 3.5 point favorite on the road. Totals 222. Saw a 1 point fade of Los Angeles and movement downward on the total. The Lakers open 4.5 down to -3.5. Total open 222 and a hook down to 222 even. 73% are leaning Lakers. 77% shaded toward the over. Right now, Portland's plus $1.55 on the money line. Portland failed to cover in 5 out of their last 8 at home. They're just 9 and 13 straight up overall for the year, bottom 10 in points allowed, bottom 5 in defensive rebounding. Now the Lakers on the other side, winners in 9 out of their last 10. They're also 19 and 3 straight up overall for the year. Anthony Davis is averaging 26 points a game, 9 rebounds, and 3 blocks. LeBron James, 25 points a game, 7 rebounds, 11 assists for him. They are 10 and 1 straight up away from home, top 3 in field goal percentage, top 3 in points allowed. And when it comes to this total, the Lakers are 6 and 1 to the under in their last 7. Meanwhile, 5 out of Portland's last 8 stayed under the number themselves. I'm going to purchase the half a point, slide it down, and lean Lakers -3 and the under 222 in that game. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive into our quick pick recap. Once again, brought to you by patreon.com/BrockPage, where once again we are hitting at 64% in our last 22 board member package plays. I like the Lakers -3 under 222, Sacramento +4 under 216, Milwaukee -3 under 232, Washington +11 over 234.5. OKC -2 under 221. Chicago -5 under 212 and a hook. Boston -3 under 203. Cleveland +4 under 212 and a half. Indiana -3 over 212 and a hook. And last but certainly not least, I like Brooklyn -2 and the over 218 and a half in that game. All right, let's go ahead and dive into some shout outs. Once again, brought to you by patreon.com/BrockPage. Shout out to Josh Stanish, Emerald Ghana, Banal Ghana. Shout out to King Zion Wyatt, Raisin215, Jerry David, Stephen Lewis, Gambling Junkie, Tom Ochoa, Tiernan Stevens, Evil Dax, Willie Lewis. I just said that. Evil Dax gets 2 shout outs. Shout out to NPant14, Jeremy Parks, Ronnie Christie, Micah Bryan. Shout out to Square707, Cockburn FTW, Juju Haha. Shout out to Michael Duffy, Proline Master, Double T. And last but certainly not least, shout out to Martinius Tiskus. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Once again, don't forget to check me out on patreon.com/BrockPage, where once again, like I said, we're hitting at 64% in our last 22 board member package plays on that website. We're also hitting at 65% for the entire college football season on that site as well. We do daily premium selections on that site, beginning at just $1.99 per month. We have a bunch of different memberships, tiers, and packages that you can subscribe to on that site. Now, a lot of folks will ask me, and you might be wondering, what's the difference between what you do here on Patreon and what you do here on YouTube and your Patreon page? What's the difference between this YouTube program where you handicap every game and your Patreon page? And that's a great question. What we do here on YouTube is we handicap every single game on the board, both the side and the total. And of course, if you were to do that in your everyday life, betting your hard-earned money on every single game, side and total, you're guaranteed to lose your money in the long run. The books are too sharp, they're too smart, the math is always against you. As a matter of fact, you're probably going to end up losing your money in the short run as well. So what we do on Patreon is we really narrow it down and focus in on 3 to 4 premium selections per day. They're high percentage selections, games that I personally have action on. And I'll tell you this much, my current record on Patreon is a whole lot better than it is on YouTube, handicapping every single game, side, and total. And as a matter of fact, you can actually check out my current record for free right now. All you have to do is click the link in the description section below. That's patreon.com/BrockPage. All right, guys, now is the time to slide into our Spanish edition, also known as our Edición en Español. Yo tengo Lakers -3 y los bajos. Sacramento con puntos y los bajos. Milwaukee -3 y los bajos. Washington con puntos y las altas. OKC -2 y los bajos. Chicago -5 y los bajos. Boston -3 y los bajos. Cleveland con puntos y los bajos. Indiana let's try that again. Indiana -3 y las altas. Y final Brooklyn -2 y las altas. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Once again, don't forget to check me out on Patreon. But most importantly, I got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. Happy Friday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you on patreon.com/ProgPage.